About 11 years ago now, I had a hot, passionate love affair with the poker machine. The amount that I lost that's quoted is $40,000. Now, what they don't often say is that I lost the $40,000, I lost it in 5 months, I lost it on first-generation machines, which means there were only 3 lines, and I lost this money pushing the coins through a slot because we did not have node acceptors. So after I lost that money, I started to juggle bills. And it was then that my husband found a school fee bill that he knew he'd given me the money for, and he found a reminder notice, and he said, Gabi, can I have a look at the bank statements? And he had a look, and he said, where does all this money go? And then I had to express to him that I probably spent too much time in a gaming venue and on poker machines. And you know the first thing my husband said? Thank God it's only that. I thought you were having an affair. Because it wasn't just the money that was the issue. You know, when I came home and I spent my last dollar and time that I should have spent with and on my family, you know, my husband wanted to put his arms around me. I pushed him away. I couldn't stand him to be close to me because of what I was doing. The major and the biggest impact my relationship to the poker machines had on my relationship to my children, though. And we fought a lot in that time. My husband and I had constant arguments about money and about poker machines and, you know, why I never was where I said I was. And I remember that we made the decision to tell my daughter that Mommy had a problem with the poker machines because, you know, kids sometimes think it's their fault because things are not the same anymore. And so we told my daughter Mommy had a problem, and I never forget the night that I sat at her bedside and tears running down my face because she had found a little note in her money box that said, Mommy has taken your money. And my little girl said to me, Mommy, can't Daddy buy you a poker machine so you and the money just stay at home? You know, that hurts. Now, it wasn't until one particular incident that I had to admit to myself that I had much more than just a fling with the poker machines, and that incident had to do with my mother-in-law. Now, one particular day, my mother-in-law said, Gabi, you've got to be home on time tomorrow. There's no excuse for you to be late. She never mentioned the word gambling, but I knew what she was talking about. So I thought I'd be really clever. So I went to my boss, I asked for an extra half hour on actually play the pokies a bit, then catch the train from Spencer Street Station to Blackburn to pick up my kids on time. Now, as I said, that half hour I spent in a gaming venue. And I knew that from the gaming venue to Spencer Street Station to the station, there was exactly 18 minutes. So I'm standing there, pumping money into it. I got really aggro because it wasn't paying, and I look at my watch constantly, and it was time to go, and I look again, and I thought, if I walk fast, I can make it in 16 minutes. To this day, you know, there's this long corridor at Spencer Street Station. I can still see myself with my shoes in my hand, running as fast as I could up the stairs just to catch the backlight of the train disappearing in the distance. Now, that night, I came home, I sat my family down, and I said, I have a major problem with the poker machines, and I need help. And everybody sighed a breath of relief and said, thank God for this, she's finally admitting it. And for the first time, I found some really hands-on thing to do when what people refer to the urge to gamble hit me. I'm sure nobody here has a bad habit, but I'm sure you all could think about a person you know that has a bad habit, right? Now, these people would agree with me that before they indulge in the behavior, they have a little internal war happening. Right? It starts with one tempting thought. Let's just have one piece of chocolate. It goes away again maybe, but when it comes back the third or the fourth time, it becomes really sneaky. It says things like, oh, somebody's really smiling in the background. It says things like, you worked so hard in the garden. And your husband or your wife are pain, and the children specifically get on your nerves today. And at our age, you know, who cares what we look like, really? And the last convincing argument would be, you deserve this. And then you have one piece, the whole block, internal war lost. True? Now, it doesn't matter if we're talking chocolate or cigarettes or alcohol, whatever it is. there is this small window of opportunity where, because we feel like two people in one body that constantly fighting with each other until the one that shouldn't win wins, what I learned in this course was the minute I became aware of any thought that had to do with gambling, I gave this voice an image. It wasn't me talking to me anymore. I had a fuzzy idea about God and the devil. So for me, my gambling part, if you want to call it, became a little demon. And I would see this ugly thing looking at me. And I'm driving, and he says things like, oh, let's just stop here and play $10. This time you can control it, And this ugly thing talked to me, and I learned to talk back to it like I would talk to my worst enemy. I would say, hey, you would like to go and stop and play $10. I don't. It popped up, and what it said was so sneaky. It said, Gabi, you're going to tell the world that you have the cure for poker machine addiction. How can you do this if you never went back into a gaming room, just stood there and didn't feel anything? Because let's face it, it's true. A cure is only a cure when you can face the beast. If you have to run away from it for the rest of your life, you can't say you're cured. So I walked across the road to a venue that I had frequented before, and I don't know how long I just stood there and didn't do anything. But then I changed money. And what happened then will stay with me for the rest of my life. I see this crazy woman, this is me, running to the cashier, changing money, running to a poker machine, pumping it all in, playing the highest amount of credit lines, whatever I could do just to get rid of the money, to the ATM, taking money out, to the cashier, to the poker machines. I don't know how often I did that circle, not even interested in what the results were on that screen. All along I was fighting a battle inside of me that was so much bigger than I ever envisaged. I remember the minute I couldn't get any more money out of the ATMs, driving home, I stopped in Warrandyte at our hotel. They have poker machines, and they gave me more money because they knew me. Until there was no jackpot big enough to win back what I lost that day, and I'm not talking monetary terms. When I was driving home from that hotel over the bridge to my house in North Warrandyte, all along I was thinking about how I could end my life and how I could do it without making it too difficult for the people that loved me. How do I feel about poker machines now? And as I said, when I walk into a gaming room now, it's a little bit like running into the old flame. The one that you thought you couldn't live without. And isn't it true that after a while, the image that you carry in your heart and the real thing sometimes don't match much anymore? You thought he had more hair, or she had a better figure. All I can think of if I look at a poker machine now is, Gabi, what on earth did you ever see in them? I believe that we are made like jigsaw puzzles. I'm not talking about grandchildren 8-piece ones. I'm talking complicated 500,000-piece ones. There's a part of me that's a mother, there's a part of me that's the wife, there's a part of me that's a speaker, there's a part of me that's a sports person. I have all these bits and pieces of me, and if they're on this jigsaw, nicely lined up, I have a complete picture and I feel whole. Now, in most of our lives, sometimes, I guess, there's pieces missing. I had a very, very strong spiritual void. For other people, it could be relationship issues. It could be unresolved grief. It could be a childhood trauma. It could be loneliness, big one, social isolation, boredom. Now, when gambling came along, it was a little bit like if you ever looked for the blue piece in the blue sky in a jigsaw, and 4 hours gone by, and you find one piece that has a little bit of blue in it, right? And you look at it, and in your heart, the manufacturer normally doesn't make a mistake, but you think this time it's not my fault. This is the piece that's got to go into the blue sky. So you squash it in there. I actually took scissors at once. I should try to get. So when gambling came along, I squashed it in there in that hole that I was feeling, and the sky looked blue. But what happens is if we put a jigsaw piece into a spot where it doesn't belong, what happens? Things become a bit wavy, other pieces pop out, You have to take it out.